Recording?
One second, it's coming.
We're streaming live.
It's connecting now. Okay, Madam Chair.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is a regular meeting of the Village of Mamaroneck Planning Board. It's September 23rd, 2020, and we're calling the meeting to order at 7:02. The agenda tonight, there was an error that we were considering some minutes. Those minutes were approved at the last meeting, and it kind of got carried over by mistake. So we're going to start with the agenda items, and we're going to take them out of order. We're going to take care of 620 West Boston Post Road first, and then we're going to do 355 Phillips Park Road, and then we'll do Orient Avenue last, so that John Verney, who's recused from that matter, can leave the meeting, and we can continue. We can continue without him. Okay, so we need to let in whoever is here to speak on 620 West Boston Post Road. And Susan has joined us. We have a revised landscape plan. We have a memo from Susan Oakley, and I don't want to speak for her, but I read it, and it appears that everything that everyone has asked for is on the new revised landscape plan, but she can verify that. And we have a resolution to consider as well to approve.
I would recommend opening the floor for public comment as well, if you so choose, just because we are discussing new items.
Right. Okay. If first, okay, we're all good. Mr. Brescia, are you here by yourself tonight? You're going to speak? Mr. Brescia, are you presenting this to us? Can he hear us? Oh, here's the landscape architect. I recognize the name. Okay. Okay. You can't, am I the only one who can't understand?
It's just noise.
Yeah, it's garbled. The audio is no.
Sometimes when you connect and join again.
Right. Mr. Govan, you may have to connect. Right, he's turning it off. You may have to go off and on. The joys of meeting by Zoom. I'll just be patient, see if we can. Somebody needs to speak for the applicant and present where we are now. All right, well, I don't know, maybe we should move on. Is he hopefully logging off and trying to log back on? All right, William, can you let Mr. Govan back in? I believe he's in the waiting room.
I know you can't hear me well, but is there a way I can call in?
No, we can hear you perfectly now.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes. Whatever you did worked. Right. Okay, we can begin.
So I believe we've met all of Susan's requirements. We've provided a site plan with the transplanted plants. I think we've met all the requirements at this point. We've documented all the movements of the plants, the new plants, and the transplanted ones.
Okay,
I don't know where anybody else is of the team, but hopefully that's enough to speak to that end of it.
Susan is just indicating that she has no sound. Can we unmute her? Is she? Susan, you're muted. Can you hear us? We're gonna have fun tonight with our technology. All right. All right, she's sending chat. All right.
So this is Earl again. I think we've met all of Susan's requirements.
Yes.
She met with Dominic at the site. There was a meeting last week about a couple of issues. I think about the turning of the stone, making sure that went down.
Right.
And that all the plants were documented. So since
Right.
then, I believe we've covered all that.
Yes, and she did send us a memo indicating that was all taken care of. And she recommended that the as-built conditions be properly assessed after installation, which I think is standard. That's, I think, how the problem was uncovered in the first place. But if we need to put that in, we can put that into the resolution. We can just indicate it as we go along here. Does any member of the planning board have any question? Susan, can you speak now? No. All right. Any member of the planning board have any questions for the applicant?
I have some comments or questions about the resolution, but nothing for the applicant.
Okay, when we get there. Anybody else want to ask any questions of the applicant and his landscape architect? No. Okay. I think it's a good suggestion since we do have a final plan that we're considering. If any member of the public would like to speak on this matter. We did have some people coming when we first started this process. We haven't seen any neighbors since. Is anybody in the waiting room, please indicate that you'd like to speak so that we can elevate you.
I don't see anyone, Madam Chair.
Okay, all right. Okay, so are we ready to discuss the resolution? Okay, we have a draft resolution in front of us. Cindy, you want to start with any concerns that you might have?
Sure, just a couple of minor things. If you take a look at the fifth whereas clause, it starts with whereas the changes to the landscape plan have been reviewed by the landscape consultant and were determined to be in line with the landscape plan. I would just clarify that a little bit, and I would rewrite the sentence to insert a couple of words. So it would read.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Are you looking at a different version than I have? That's your fifth whereas. It should be the seventh whereas. There was two whereases that were added.
William posted an updated resolution online. I don't know, was it Monday, William? I'm not sure which day, but he made a couple edits to it and posted online. So I don't know if you're looking at the one that I circulated from Saturday.
I thought I had the most recent, but maybe I don't. But so maybe it's not number 5, maybe it's a different
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Let me see if it's changed.
No, the only thing that was changed were the dates were added and 2 whereases, which I can read to you, were added above where you're referring to.
Okay, so that's more boilerplate language. I think the one so do you see the one I'm talking about? Whereas?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so here are my suggestions. Whereas the changes to the landscape plan, I think the reference to that is actually to the amendment. I mean, we have a landscape plan amendment that we refer to in the first paragraph.
Mhm.
So the landscape plan amendment have been reviewed by the village's landscape consultants, Ms. Susan Oakley of Terabella Land Design, and were determined to be in general conformity with the original landscape plan.
What's good for you? The old one, what made me kill BLT then?
I'm sorry. So,
Sorry, who?
I just want to make sure that we're referring to the landscape, the original and the amendment, and we're consistent about it.
Let me look at,
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the changes that you,
That's what the two clauses say, is it refers to the August 3rd plan and the revised September 15th plan. So that might incorporate your concerns, Cindy.
it doesn't.
let me, I can look at the language just to better clarify the original landscape plan and the amended landscape plan. But when you're talking about the changes to the landscape plan, are you talking about, so the way that's written says, whereas the changes to the landscape plan have been reviewed by the village's landscape consultant. Are you talking about the changes from the original plan or the changes from the amended? So he initially submitted this, his amended.
Right.
Hence the reason we need to clarify.
Right, exactly. So I want to confirm with you though, that you're talking about the one that he changed.
Well, I thought I was, but maybe that's not the clearest way to do it.
Okay.
So that's my problem. And I also didn't like to be in line with, we've always talked that we wanted the applicant to be in conformity as close as possible to the originally approved plan. And so that's why I would talk about the original plan and general conformity with it.
Okay.
Rather than in line with, which is a little squishier.
So I think these are just clarification changes. So I
Yeah.
think that I can
Yeah.
work on those. And if the board's still comfortable with moving forward with the resolution, knowing that I'll be making some changes that are, I wouldn't call them substantive. They're just essentially to clarify what.
Okay. And then the now therefore be it resolved section, which goes 1A and B and 2, 3, and then 7 for some reason.
Oh,
No one else caught that.
I have to say I drafted these quickly, so I apologize.
Well, I thought you were just testing us.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say with regard to 1B, it should be install and maintain.
Okay.
I know number 2 sort of talks about that, but I would actually like maybe to put in the language from the original resolution, which was circulated from 2016, item 1D, which says all landscaping shall be installed in a healthy and vigorous state and shall be inspected at the beginning and end of the growing season within the first year of installation. Individual species that do not survive beyond the first year shall be replaced at the beginning of the next growing season. Landscaping shall be maintained for the life of the facility. I thought that was quite elegant and kind of ties all this together. I didn't write it. Somebody else did.
Let me
Right.
look quickly because I thought 3 would cover that, but let me see, because this is for the site plan.
Yeah, all conditions imposed on the applicant
Yeah,
Okay, Then,
continue to apply.
but
I can still do it. I don't mind.
We've broken out some of the landscaping specific ones here. So I think, yes, of course, all the other conditions makes perfect sense. But if we're going to talk about landscaping, because that's the point of this whole exercise, to, you know, tighten this up to make it clear that
That's fine.
sort of a catch-all, but
So
I
we're
think
going to
that's-
replace 1B with 1D from the original resolution.
1B and, yeah.
actually two. I think two
1B
can
and
go also.
2, right. Right, there's no reason why we shouldn't carry through, and I'm sorry, I didn't look at the original resolution, but those were the conditions that were imposed then, they should be the same conditions that are imposed now, because we're talking about basically the same project and the same plan. So if you can just cut and paste that paragraph in, I think that's fine.
Okay.
It's nothing new. I don't think it's surprising to the applicant or anybody else, but
Right.
No, I don't think so either.
make it specific.
And the two whereases that you don't have is after the second whereas about where the property is located, it says whereas the planning board approved a site plan, including a landscape plan for this parcel on November 30th, 2016. And whereas the applicant failed to execute the approved landscape plan and chose to seek approval for an amended plan. And then it continues exactly the way it was before.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I think Susan Oakley, I think she can speak now if you want to hear from her.
Susan, can we hear you?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, yay, we're having a lot of technical difficulties tonight. Do you have anything to add? We did get your memo. Oh, we even can see you. We did get your memo. Do you have anything else that you want to add to what was said already, if you could hear us?
I'm sorry, I just came in when you were speaking about the resolution, so I didn't hear anything that went on previous to that.
We both basically reiterated what was in your memo.
Okay, then that I think sums up all the issues
Okay.
as far as I can tell.
Okay. So are people comfortable with voting on this resolution as amended tonight?
Yes.
Do I have a motion then to approve the resolution as amended?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay. Cindy,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Lou, you'll have to unmute yourself to vote. There you
Yes.
are.
Yes.
And
yes.
John,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, we're looking forward to seeing a lovely front yard at 620 West Boston Post Road. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work on this. It took a while. Okay. Now we need to switch people who are present and get the people for 355 Phillips Park Road, which is an application for a site plan and a special use permit. The applicant has been at HCZM. HCZM has granted consistency, found it to be consistent. I want to get my terms right. They put no conditions on their consistency determination. So we are now here to have the applicant present to us what changed since we last saw you and sort of where are we? So we have Ms. Adana with us.
Good evening.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yay.
Yeah. Good evening, Chair and members of the board. Christy Adana from Silverberg Zelantis. Also here, hopefully, we have Robert Stanziel, the architect, Michael Stein, our engineer, and Dominic Brescia for the applicant. I hope you all enjoyed the rest of your summer. We were last before you back in July when the board did issue a secret determination, a negative declaration. Since then, we advised that we had gone to the BAR for an initial review earlier in the process. After the secret determination was made, we returned to the BAR and obtained final approval for the design. As the chair mentioned, we also appeared before HCZM last week on September 16th, and the commission issued a clean consistency determination without conditions. There was one request that HCZM did make, that a note be included on the landscape plan that after installation of the new trees in the rear of the property, that there will be no use of fertilizer. The applicant is perfectly comfortable with that, and this note will be included on the revised plan that will be submitted with our next submission for your first October meeting. So we're back before the board for continued review of the site plan and special permit applications. We did submit updated plans for architectural and engineering and a response from Hudson Engineering to the comments by Mr. Hildenbrand. We also reviewed the memorandum that Mr. Hildenbrand issued dated September 21st, 2020, stating that all items have been addressed. So other than that, I really don't have much new to report. So we're here and we're happy to discuss any other items the board may have related to site plan and special permit.
Perhaps the architect and or the engineer, if anything has changed in the plans since we last saw them, since I saw they are revised and there are notes that HCZM and made some comments and revisions were made. If you could walk us through them, that would be great.
Madam Chair, if you can hear me, this is Robert Stanziel.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
There were no changes to the architectural plans at all. We had gone back, I think you had us go back to the Architecture Review Board. We got reapproval from them. So nothing since you've seen it the last few times actually has really changed on the plan, nor the elevations or the design of the building itself. Hudson Engineering might have some updates, but there's nothing that's changed on the architectural plans.
Okay, all right, thank you. Hudson Engineering wants to weigh in there.
Very similarly, from the last time you saw the drawings, minimal has changed. We've actually got the survey data in to extend this drain line down the street. Let me just share my screen. I just need the permission to share the screen.
William, yeah, you have to give him permission to share screen.
Okay.
Thank you. And so basically we showed the full extension of the drain line going down the street, down to this point. Other than that, they're very minimal has changed. I think there was an internal drain for the compact area, for the garbage area inside. That originally was connected to the exterior, or the drainage system that went to the exterior. However, that's now been directed to the interior drainage, or the interior sanitary sewer system.
Right.
So that was probably the biggest revision.
Right. Okay.
Chair, we also still have Mr. Govin on the line, the landscape architect. I wasn't sure if he was going to stay on. So if the board has any questions regarding landscaping, or if you would like him to address the changes that have been made on that front, he's available.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's talk about the roof garden.
Can you hear me? This is Earl.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So after reviewing the last review by the engineers and their environmentalists, we changed all the evergreen shrubs on the roof to Ilex glaber, which is a native shrub. So we removed the boxwood, the ilex, and we put in the Ilex glaber, which is native. We removed the large evergreen trees and replaced all of those with hydrangea, so that it was a little bit smaller and stayed within the box a little bit better. But other than that, we tried to respond to give as many native plants as possible. So we're probably about 85 or 90% native at this point. We have the same design. We just changed some of the plants to native to respond to the comments that we received from both the engineer and from Susan.
Okay. Do we still have Susan with us? While we're waiting to get Susan, Brian, we do have a memo from you with regards to your concerns, and it appears everything's been addressed, but please, if you have anything to add.
Nothing to add, just that everything has been addressed. I had a few minor comments outstanding, and over the past few months, everything's been revised and addressed.
There's reference in a couple places to a Hudson Engineering memo dated August 28th, 2020. I didn't seem to have it. I didn't see it on the website. Is that somewhere to be found?
Was it for HCZM?
Well, this was in the cover letter from Ms. Adana to us. Well, it was also referred to in Mr. Hildenbrand's memo that was
Right.
memo to us. That was something that was reviewed, so I didn't see it.
Ms. Goldstein, it was included in our most recent submission. And if you, I'm not sure why it wasn't provided, but it is included with the agenda materials. If you click on the link for the agenda, it is one of the documents that is there. So it was submitted.
Well, there is a document on the website that says the memo, it's a memo, but it's not a memo. It's a bunch of engineering plans. So I think I'm still missing the memo.
It's entitled Response to Village Engineer.
Okay, I thought I looked at all the documents and I did not see it, so.
I only have one screen available here.
Yeah, I can't get to that right
I
now.
can't pull up a different screen unless I use my iPad, which is not in this room.
Can I also ask another question about the stone wall? I mean, somebody will have to refresh my recollection in terms of, there was the stone wall between the building and the river is there now, or it's being built, and what's the purpose? And I remember there was a conversation. I don't remember what the resolution of that stone wall was.
There's two different walls. The first wall is the wall along the river, which is off of our property. And then there's this wall, which is another wall that's being proposed. That's really the only regrading that's happening. When there's a bike, it's anticipated that a bike rack is being placed in here because you have the park right next door.
So visitors to the park could use the bike rack, or is that just for the building?
Bike rack will be available for public access and use.
So which was the wall that early on when we started the application, it was said that could be removed if that was a problem for any reason?
That would be the wall.
The one by the bike rack?
Yes.
Okay.
It would just inhibit the ability to provide the bike rack and the permeable pavers, which are obviously beneficial public aspects of this project that were recommended by both Mr. Cutler, the former village planner, and county planning.
Yes, I know the county likes that amenity. Was there some conversation at HCZMC? I caught part of it, but I didn't understand it, talking about a water flow, a rivulet, something from that area? I'm assuming all the stormwater is controlled, so I didn't know what water they were talking about.
In part because, wait, am I muted?
No, we can hear
Okay. In part because the water from this area flows down and it's channelized right through here. By putting in this wall, we're minimizing the amount of channeling that's causing. And then I don't think Doreen was understanding that we're taking away area that actually flowed down through here, channelizing.
Closer to the building is where it was channelizing?
Correct. And so now, let's see. And so they're really very minimal channeling right now coming down through here, right through this part, because this is all being raised up to grade.
Okay, so what's the material that it's channeling across through down right now? Is that grass or?
Grass, and there's a walkway that goes down there as well. Or, well, not grass, vegetated. I'll use that word.
Okay, so there will be a water flow in that area heading towards the river.
Substantially less. Very
Okay.
substantially less.
And there's no water quality treatment on that?
That water that's exactly where that water's going. All that water is coming off the village's property, being directed towards this property.
And where's the village property with regard? It's the park area next door?
This is the village line right here. The wall is basically the village line.
Okay, so the stone wall closer to the river is village property?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Mike, what's the wall made of? The new wall you're building.
That I'm not exactly sure. Where the design wasn't by our office.
The wall is proposed to be a segmented block wall, like a unilock type wall with a stone finish on it.
What kind of finish?
A stone appearance. Obviously, it's concrete, but we're going to use a unilock block that looks like has an appearance of a granite finish on it.
Dominic just messaged me. It's a mesa block, which is a type of interlocking modular block wall.
Similar to unilock, mason lock.
Correct.
Mhm.
Did we lose Susan Oakley?
I tried to get her back. I was unable to reach her.
Okay, all right, so she's not looked, we don't have anything from her, am I correct, with regards to the changes for the roof garden? I know she had some concerns, but we haven't gotten anything back from her, correct? Okay, well, she should be sent the plan and asked to provide comments to the board. Does any member of the planning board have any questions for the applicant? Or any of the applicant's team?
Yeah, there's a nice picture of some wood screening, and that is, I guess, to cover the mechanical area. Could you just go into that a little bit, where that's going to be? Is that up on the roof deck?
Yes, Mr. Verney, I'm speaking, I'm not sure what Earl had on there, but we had agreed to put some sort of horizontal wood screening to sort of simulate the railings that we have on the roof to screen off the mechanical equipment on the roof. Yep. In that landscape park.
So those black lines, is that where the fence is going to be? Where the
Correct.
Kind of goes all the way around, and it also comes around the seating area. It covers the mechanical area and also the seating area.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna look nice.
Yep. Cool. I think.
So this is Earl again. Just to reiterate about the landscape, the latest changes were made as a result of the comments that were made by both Susan and the environmental and engineering consultants. So anything we changed was to make it either more native or to accommodate both Susan and their comments. So just to reiterate that.
Okay, I think we understand that.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments for the applicant before the public hearing is open? So we can open it up for public comment if everyone here is finished, everyone on the panel is finished. Okay. Okay, so if there's any member of the public either watching this or dialing in would like to speak about this project, now is the time to do so. So William.
Wish to speak, please raise your hand. Madam Chair, it doesn't appear that anyone wishes to speak.
All right. Okay. Give it another minute or two, just in case somebody wants to. We have some. How do the call-in listeners, phone call-in listeners, let us know if they want to speak?
*9.
*9. Thank you. I'm not a Zoom expert.
That'll open the front door of my building.
Don't give us any ideas. Okay. Okay. So where are we right now? I guess is there anything else, any other comments? Are we ready to ask the staff to, assuming we're leaving the public hearing open, we would like to hear from Susan Oakley just to make sure she's comfortable with the changes that were made in the landscape plan. Do we want to get a draft of a resolution for our next meeting, or don't think we're there yet? Yeah, I think we're there.
Yeah.
It seems like we did a lot of heavy lifting on this project before you went to HCZM. So seemed like a
Yes.
lot of the questions and a lot of the issues were already taken care of.
So I would like to make a suggestion for the resolution. I mean, I agree. I think I think we've been through this. HCZMC gave a clean consistency determination. However, I would like to propose to my fellow board members that we consider having the applicant engage an independent monitor. We have experience with the applicant. We just finished an item with the applicant where there were significant issues on that property that did not conform to what was approved, not just landscape, but the building as well. So I would be much more comfortable if our resolution included that requirement.
Any comments from the board on this?
If I could,
I'm sorry, but can you repeat that requirement?
The applicant would hire and pay for an independent monitor to oversee the project on a very regular basis to make sure that what is approved is what is built.
But isn't that what the building department does?
Well, we've had issues with this applicant before, and I'm personally much more comfortable with the belt and suspenders approach. But that's why I'm throwing it out there.
Given the proximity of the Mamaroneck River? Is that one of the reasons?
Yeah, that's absolutely one of the reasons.
Okay, got it.
Anybody else have anything they want to say about this?
I support Cindy's idea.
John?
Well, I think we've head off a bunch of things. I think that the landscape plan and the engineering plans are very specific. I mean, down to which plant's supposed to be where. So I think it's pretty easy to track where there is an inkberry and there isn't an inkberry. And so that's pretty specific. So I think we've helped ourselves with that specificity here. I don't know what exactly that independent person is supposed to, are they supposed to report to the building department, or how does that work? Because I understand Lou's consideration is that we have a building department. So what are we asking the applicant to do?
Well, again, I think this is unusual insofar as we've had this particular applicant not build according to specific plans. We just finished that situation. And I think, as I said, and I think Lou added that eloquently, the proximity to the river is a major issue. And I for one, don't want to go through reviewing a landscape plan for 4 or 5 meetings. I'm sure that landscape plan at 620 was very specific, but we still had to go through the amendments.
So you're saying during the construction, so it ends up before we get a C of O that it matches what was put on all the plans we're looking at.
Well, and I think it also saves the applicant some money because, that 620 was a disaster for everybody. So if while the process is going on, while the building, while the landscaping, while the grading are all happening, they get a little extra nudge from somebody to double check the plans. I think the building department is stretched. I think they have a lot going on, and we give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but I'm applying a little healthy skepticism to this applicant based on prior history.
So you're suggesting that monitor report, like, can we have Susan go out and check the landscaping plan and the independent engineering consultant check that? Who is?
Isn't it easier to hire somebody who does the whole thing? I guess we could send people. I don't know. Do they have authority to check it? An independent monitor would, and I'm sure there's some standard contracts that our attorney could find for us that would be.
Right, but Cindy, I understand what you're saying, but I think we need to explain what we want an independent monitor to monitor. There's different types of monitoring. There's construction monitoring. There's structural monitoring. There's mechanical. But I think what you're looking for is an environmental monitoring to make sure that whatever construction, it's protected from going into the river. So you're looking for a guy to make a monitor to make sure that the construction boundaries and protection gives you that protection that you're looking for, which is the Mamaroneck River.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that's a primary point. But remember that 620 West Boston Post Road was not built according to approved plans by some of the village's boards, but by others, it was a mess. So
the issue is compliance with the approved plans. It's very simple.
What Cindy's talking
Yes,
about.
I got it. I understand all that. But so at the end of the day, we're looking for a resident engineer to be on this job every day to check this and report to the building department. Is that what you're looking for?
Of course not. That would be unreasonable. But periodically they'd have. This would be all spelled out in the agreement. I think we need to decide if, as a board, the majority is in favor of the concept, and then we work out the details.
Frank on that?
Frank was trying to say.
Yeah, I think what Cindy's talking about are third-party inspections, where an independent structural person will come in, inspect certain parts of the structure, an independent landscape or HVAC or whatever you're concerned with, they would come in and do sporadic inspections just to double check the building department that what's going up is what's supposed to go up.
Well, we're not checking the building department. We're checking the applicant. It's not.
Right.
May I respond or address this issue?
Sure.
You know, I understand the concern. I think the applicant has seen what happened with West Boston Post Road, and you know, that was never his intention. I'm not going to get into that, but he has to comply with the approved plans, and the village has consultants. You have an engineer, you have a landscape consultant who could certainly do those periodic reviews to ensure that the project is proceeding in accordance with the plans. But you know, there's a lot of cost associated with this, and the applicant has already incurred substantial cost and is going to be making improvements that are for the benefit of the village. And so we just don't want to see this get a little too out of control. Respectfully, I understand what you're saying, but the applicant has seen what happens when you deviate from the plans. And I understand the board put a lot of time into reviewing that revised landscape plan, and I understand you don't want to do it again, but the applicant has also seen what happens if you deviate. And so I'm confident in saying that there is no intention here to do so.
Nobody's saying there's an intention to do anything wrong. I would think sending the village engineer, sending the landscape consultant out, that's going to be expensive too. And that's a kind of cost that mounts up and you don't even know it happens. At least with a monitor, we have one person, maybe two, depending on expertise. And you have a contract price, and you hammer out how often the person goes and who they report to and how it's done. So we don't have to decide those issues here. I'm throwing the idea out, and I think I would certainly want to see this explored more, but I'm doing it now, not when we're about to pass a resolution.
Can I ask a question? I have not experienced this before, but I don't know if it's something the planning board has done or William has experience with it. Frank obviously has heard of it before, but let's say that he finds an issue, that this independent monitor, are they to report it to who? To the building department?
The building inspector.
And then at that point, it's the building inspector's discretion as to whether he sees a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's his job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Third party reports are not.
Can I say something? I'm sorry.
It's new. You know, certainly on structural engineers. I mean, I have to give third party reports on things to make sure that the structure is up to snuff, and that those reports are something I pay for and give to the building department. So it just needs to be. You know, that's why I think Lou asks appropriate questions. What things do we want to have checked? What's on that list of third party reports that we're looking for, or what's the scope of the monitor that you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, we can figure that out. I think Mr. Stanziali had something.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think that the professionals that are involved, the architect, engineer, and landscape architect, have an obligation, just from a professional standpoint, to ensure conformity to the plans. And if there's any discretions, to report it to the building department and the owner. I don't know. I think that may be enough coverage just from a professional standpoint.
I will tell you that in this village, it's not just this applicant, there have been multiple situations where unfortunately what you described hasn't happened.
So this is Earl Govan in terms of landscape architecture. I would be happy to write a letter at such time when it was substantially complete as to the plan that was approved. I would be happy to do that. If you can make an approval based on that, we write a substantially complete letter, I'd be happy to do that. At such time when it's complete.
Well, maybe that's one aspect of it that is easier to handle. I mean, I think landscape is easier to change than the finishes on the exterior of a building. That's, or the windows.
For the height of a building. I mean, things have happened in the village of Mamaroneck where it's like, whoops, and then do you ask them to tear it down or do you just change it? And, having somebody, a third party, just checking compliance. I think what Richard said is what we're concerned about, that what we approve for this project actually is what gets built. As Cindy just said, it's easy to change landscaping. It's harder to change a building once the building is built. Or, so to have somebody early on, and I would like to hear.
That can be done. That can be done in 3 inspections. If we're worried that at the end of the day, I'm going to end up with something there from the landscape. So you can do that within 3 inspections. If we're looking to have a guy check everything, that's a different kettle of fish. If we're looking to see if the end game is what we agreed, you can do that at the substantial completion. And when the job is 90%, and you do an inspection, you make sure everything is there. So you accomplish. The reason why I said, is there an environmental check here, is, to me, that's what concerns me the most. It's the means and methods of construction right next to the Mamaroneck River. That's, to me, it's what concerns me the most. I would like to have 1 or 2 inspections just to make sure that is taken care of. As far as again, and as far as making sure that I end up with a BMW instead of a Pinto, I did own a Pinto. That's
I wouldn't be proud of that.
So that can be done with a substantial completion inspection. That's not the end of the world, and I think the building department can do that. That's not stretching him too thin. I think that's Frank. Frank will agree with me.
The problem is it's too late if there have been major changes to.
Yeah, at 90% completion, it's too late.
Well, so what do you think? Okay, fine. So do it at 75%.
Right.
So
At different stages.
Do a 50. I'll tell you what. Do a 50% inspection, and then a 75% inspection. That's it.
Right. If I could jump in for other towns that we work for, I mean, on the site plan, there's certain milestones, that an engineer would go out, the
Right.
town engineer,
Right.
before they backfill the drainage, the applicant is to contact.
Yeah. That happens in. I hope that happens in Mamaroneck also, right?
And laid out, it's laid out,
Right.
and that gets confirmed. So rather than it's all or nothing, that the applicant has an obligation at certain thresholds, at certain activities to get a sign off, and that either goes on the site plan.
So I think what we're discussing at this point is different levels of additional review. It may not be a full-blown independent monitor to look at the whole thing. It may be more of a specific environmental and then occasional. But can we ask maybe Mr. Long or Ms. Mason to give us some options on this if the rest of the planning board is generally in agreement that we would be more comfortable having additional reviews during the construction process?
Cindy, I could live with 50, 75, and 90 as points for inspection.
Can I ask a question, Frank, please? Frank, I know when I had a project done, and we were doing some electrical in the basement or something, my contractor had to wait for somebody from the building inspector's office to come and check
Yeah,
to
that
make sure.
happens. That happens.
Right. So with a new building like this, at what point are there different inspections done to make sure that things are going according to plan? Because I think that's what we're most concerned about, that things deviate from the approved plan.
So the first thing that's going to happen is well, actually, it's not even the foundation. This is going to be built on top. It would be the framing of the new structure from the second floor up. Framing, then all the mechanicals that go in the building, the HVAC, electrical, plumbing, the whole gamut of mechanical equipment that goes in that building.
So when somebody is going out to check the framing, are they checking it for structural integrity?
Sure,
Are they
sure.
checking? Okay, so are they checking it to make sure the height is what the height should be based on the plan?
Yeah, they're checking what is approved on the plans is what's going up. Sometimes when you talk about third-party inspections, if there's a lot of steel in that building, which I don't believe there is, but some building has a lot of steel, they always require third-party inspectors to check the connections, to check the size of the steel, that type of thing, because the average building inspector can't, or doesn't have the expertise to do that kind of steel inspection. So that would be a third-party inspection. But other than that, the wall, the footing for the wall, we would inspect, make sure the silt fence is up, and that type of thing. I don't think that building, if you had a few third-party inspections for some of the structural, maybe the landscape, if that's what you're worried about, and maybe the mechanicals at one point if you wanted to do that, but that's.
Frank, also of course, the drainage towards the river was one of the issues. So, and I agree with everything you said, and I've gone through all the third-party inspections on steel and concrete.
Right.
Those are typical for third-party inspections.
Right.
But other than that, the building department comes out to check the framing, comes out to sign off on a foundation permit. I just went through that myself. So all those type of things, but to limit the type of things that we're concerned about, which is making sure that the drainage plan is proper before it gets sealed up. That seems to be kind of obvious. They dig
Right.
they put in a new drainage pipe, and we make sure that it's going to work properly before it flows into the river that's there.
Sure. Well, Michael Stein, the design professional, will also be checking that. He wants to make sure it goes in the way he designed it. He's not going to just let it go in willy-nilly and then it fails down the road and he's getting the phone calls. So he'll be checking the stormwater drainage as it goes in.
And during the same process, typically what happens is we have shop drawings that are submitted to us for the materials that are going to be used. Specifically in this case, it's going to be the mechanical separator. Any of the structures or piping that are going to be going in the street would be approved by shop drawings through the village's engineering department, or in this case by Kellogg Sessions' office.
And yet, in prior buildings, we've had terrible flooding problems, unforeseen issues with pipes. Everyone has the best of intentions and is a professional. I'm just doing a belts and suspenders approach as an offering to at least make me feel more comfortable with it. Again, if we had no history and everybody always built in the Village of Mamaroneck according to plans, that would be terrific. It also wouldn't be unrealistic, but.
There were problems with drainage on 620 West Boston Post Road, correct?
Correct.
I mean, this is before my time on the planning board, but so there were problems there with the actual building that was built versus what was approved on the site plan. There were problems there with the water, and there were problems with the landscape plan. And I think that's what the non-builders on the planning board are reacting to. The builders who build and have been through this process are thinking like builders. John and Lou are thinking like their own experience, and they're thinking like builders. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be.
I don't know what you mean by that.
No, you have more experience, and you're thinking about structural integrity. You're thinking about.
I think that's. I don't know what you mean by that, but what we're trying to say is I understand what Cindy is trying to do, but there's also a level of professionalism that we expect the building department to carry, and again, what do you want to do? Do you want to do a 50% inspection and a 75% inspection? You can do this in 3 or 4 inspections, okay? Because the rest, it's already covered by the building department and sign-offs and all kinds of engineering sign-offs and all kinds of stuff. The structure, the framing, the mechanicals. If you want to have an inspection for the drain, for the silt screens, for the landscaping, fine. So we'll do 3 or 4 of those types of inspections. That's what the builders of this board are recommending if you want to be sure that things are not going to end up the same way it ended up on a Boston Post Road. I mean,
I don't know. I agree. I don't have a problem with hitting those milestones of saying, okay, so add an inspection to make sure the drainage is working properly, add an inspection, make sure the landscaping is going properly. I mean, Frank's talking about the standard stuff that Lou and I are familiar with, framing and HVAC and fire safety, those type of things. But given the history that Cindy points out, and I think that the drainage was an issue at 620, and it went a couple of different ways. And sometimes there's things out in the field that have to be changed. We understand that.
Right.
So
basically, it's what
that has to be addressed. So engineers do that, but we want to make sure that
spend an hour talking about something that we can take care of it within 10 minutes. So basically, what we want to say is we want controlled inspections for certain disciplines, which are drainage, landscaping, and environmental protection with the river. So those 3 inspections, those 3 can be done at 50%, 75%, and 95%, or 90%.
The applicant would agree to that.
Yeah, I think that's a good solution.
I would like to also add that the overall finishes on the exterior of the building and the window sizes and everything that is visible should be inspected at least once. When the window cutouts, I'm not a builder.
That's the building inspector.
Yeah.
That's part of the building inspector.
Okay.
That's part of the framing. I hope that the building inspector that goes there measures heights and measures openings.
So to that point, Lou, we depend on an elevation certificate from a surveyor for the height of the building.
Yes, for the height of the building. I think Cindy is talking about window openings on the framing that dictate, the facade of the building. So
Also
I think you guys do that, right?
Maybe making sure railings that are supposed to be there are the proper railings.
Oh, that's a thought. Where'd you get that, John? It's just, just to have an independent monitor write a report at I'm fine with 50%, 75%, 90%, wherever it fits into the schedule. Do we need a second electrical inspection?
No.
You
don't need
no.
The electrical.
We don't need mechanicals. We don't need structural. But I think the visual aspect. This is going to be another visible building. It's on a well-traveled street. A lot of people go back there, park for the village. This is going to be very visible, just like 620 West Boston Post Road, although not as visible.
My problem with the Post Road building is that we thought that we were going to have a great building, and we ended up with something that was not even close of what we thought that we were going to get. And to top it all up, we got rocks for landscaping. So that's that kind of puts it. I understand. And the
Right.
developer needs to understand also.
We
All right.
hear what you're
So-
saying, and we're listening very closely, and absolutely we hear what you're saying, and we agree to the periodic inspections that have been Mr. Mendez and Mr. Verney.
Okay, all right.
One
And
point
the
of
visual aspects, like the window openings, the size of the windows, and the overall finishes on the outside, and whether the railings are, because we have a roof deck, so we have railings and we have things. Are they going to, is that the building inspector is going to be checking those against what's specified on the plans and making sure that they're using the materials that were spec'd, or a reasonable substitution if those materials aren't available? Frank, is that what the building inspector would do?
To some extent, I mean, sometimes what was called out on the plan, they're not able to get, so they do
Right.
something in kind,
Right.
like kind type of substance.
But I mean, the size of the windows is the size of the windows, right? I mean,
Well, what they showed on the plan, yeah.
right. So somebody actually checks to make sure that the windows are what was approved and not bigger or
So
smaller.
Frank, can I ask you a quick question?
Let him finish answering.
sorry,
Let him answer my
go ahead,
question
go ahead.
first, Lou. This is like the third time you've interrupted me, so I just want Frank to finish the answer to that question.
Yeah, I'm sure I didn't do it on purpose, Kathy, okay?
I mean, if you're asking me if we go out with tape measures and measure every opening, I have to be honest and say we probably don't do that. If the opening is substantially different and, it's noticeable, we'll notice it and we'll address it. But we
Okay.
don't go out with a tape measure and do that.
Okay, okay. All right, Lou? Lou, you
Can I
have a
speak?
question?
'Cause I don't want to interrupt you again. Can I
No.
speak?
You're up. Go ahead.
I thank you.
I thank you.
So Frank, besides the windows, what is the exterior finish of this building? Is it a panel, a precast panel? Is it a brick? Is it a stucco finish? What is it?
I don't have the plan in front of me. I don't actually recall
Okay, but
what it was.
We have the architect here.
The architect
The upper levels are brick veneer. The lower levels are concrete panels are going to be applied over the existing facade. With respect to the windows, question about that, I mean, I will be checking those because there's a minimum size we need for egress windows by code.
Right.
So, I mean, that's something I will be looking at as well. I'll be on site, so.
And that reminds me of another application that was not built to approve plans.
Well, this is this application. It's not another
Right.
application. So
Right.
I understand.
maybe there's a different group involved here, Ms. Goldston.
That's important to know. Is this a different team of professionals than 620? You weren't involved,
Architect,
you
yeah.
weren't the architect? Right, right, okay. That's interesting to know. Okay. All right, so as far as the environmental protection, the drainage and the landscape, it sounds like we have agreement. As far as the visual aspects that have deviated in the past, there's still an open issue here that we don't have total agreement on. So let's think about it. But I think
For purposes of drafting the resolution, though, are we for the drainage inspection, landscaping? No, why do I have drainage, engineering, landscaping?
drainage, landscaping, and environmental protection.
There we go. I don't know. I wrote down inspection as if it was a category. So, I'm confused because initially I thought it was a third party. Then I thought we agreed on 50, 75, 90% for the three components, but it would be like Brian Hildenbrand going out or Susan Oakley. Are we still requesting that it's those three types of inspections at those percentage points from a third party?
That would be my preference, but I mean, I don't know that our professional team normally does that kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know either. I think that we specify that there will be, I think Lou referred to them as controlled inspections. That's what I wrote down. And to be determined as to who was going to perform them.
Well,
We don't have to,
Third-party inspections.
third party.
Those third-party inspections, though, I mean, Brian and Susan are consultants to our board. I don't know if they're normally
Oh, we lost your audio.
consultants to us. Hernani, I know Hernani usually handles the engineering aspects. I mean, to have Brian go out would be someone independent of Hernani going out from the village, right?
Nanny doesn't work here
Brian's-
anymore.
Yeah, her nanny's been gone for a while.
Oh, okay. Who's the engineer?
Brian.
I'm consulting, but yeah, there's no full-time staffed engineer currently.
So what did,
No.
so Christy Adana, when you agreed to this, was this your understanding? I just want to make sure that this is what we're having.
Yes, the applicant will bring in third parties.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So a third party.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that third
Okay.
party will report to the building department?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I think that we accomplished a lot here. We're nearing the finish line on this one. We can see a draft agenda. Anybody else has anything to add? We will probably see you at our next meeting, the second week of October.
Yes, I would just, thank you, Chair, just ask if that landscape plan, we will be submitting a revised landscape plan to the extent of including that note that the HCZM had wanted regarding fertilizer.
Okay.
And that there won't be any other changes. So we'll get that to Mr. Long as soon as possible so that we can get that over to Ms. Oakley and she can review it, hopefully
Right.
far in advance of your first October meeting.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else? Anybody? Everybody's good? Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, have a great evening.
So we've left the public hearing open and we'll reconvene with this applicant in October. All right. Very good. Okay. That brings us to the next item on the agenda. And Mr. Verney, do you have anything that you want to say?
Previously stated, I'm recused on this matter, and I believe I'm also recused on the matter that's for executive session, correct?
We don't have an executive session tonight.
Oh, you don't? Okay,
Well, we did it on Monday.
I got you.
All that email back and forth that you know, and I was like, it didn't say exactly what it was, and I was afraid you were going to be confused. But everybody else kind of knew about it, but that was Monday. We had an executive session on Monday.
Okay.
We're good. No executive session tonight, but yes.
So then with that, I will take my leave and wish you.
You will take your leave. Yes, yes.
Bye, John.
All right.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
John. Have a good evening. Okay.
Bye, John.
Oh, we have a chat.
Oh, okay. John, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
We had a request from the applicant on Shore Acres Drive to reduce their escrow. They were, okay. Hi, Kristen.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
So unfortunately, a lot has been happening here the past 2 weeks, and the staff has not been able to do any research on this for us. As far as I personally can't make a determination because I have no idea what the average application costs as far as consultants and what a good number is. I'm assuming the numbers that are applied are numbers that came from experience. This is what applications usually cost. So I ask you to please be a little patient with us, more patient with us, while the staff just gather some information from the clerk treasurer's office and gives us an idea of what other people without major site plan applications actually pay in escrow, because I don't think I would classify this as a major site plan application, but Mr. Cavallacci did. So we could even ask him why he thought that it was rising to that level. But unfortunately, with a few other things that were going on the past 2 weeks, we just didn't get to it. I apologize.
I understand, Madam Chair, and just to perhaps shed some more light on this, we did submit a letter this morning. So I don't expect you to have had a chance to review it. But in that letter, it provides a little bit. It provides a little bit more background, and certainly, we'd be willing to work with village staff. Just given the amount of site plan applications our office has handled last year that were classified as minor, to help with what those fees were in similar applications. So certainly, the door is open.
Okay, all right. Ms. Mason, if you could please just advise us, is this something that is this an administrative determination that can just be done when we have the information, or do we have to wait for our next meeting in order to do this?
I would do it as, you have to do it as a board. So
We have to do it as a board.
Yeah,
It's not, okay.
Yeah, because it's a request of the planning board. It's not a request of the chair. So it
Okay.
would have to be something that the board needs to make a determination on.
Okay, all right. We will, I hope, I don't see any reason why, but I have been wrong before. I hope we're ready for the next meeting. We do have an extra week in there because of the 5th Wednesday in September. So hopefully that we'll be able to have it all done. And I apologize to you, and I apologize to your client. This was just something that just didn't rise up as other crises occurred. Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, John.
Take my leave again.
You take your leave again. Okay. Now we have an application to move a lot line, subdivision, change the subdivision plat for 886 and 888 Orient Avenue, which has a lot of questions with regards to the engineering and the stormwater on not the applicant's property, but the neighboring property who is giving up a part of their land or selling it to 886, 888. And that's sort of where we got hung up last time with the stormwater, there's an approved SWIP, and Frank, jump in here at any time. 888 Orient Avenue, my understanding has, they have an approved SWIP, which is gonna have to change because the size of the lot is changed. And they also have an approved and open permit to do some regrading and bring in some fill, which I believe our engineer, Brian, has informed us about this because that was the reason why the stormwater plan the part of the stormwater management system that was on the piece of land that's going to be conveyed to the neighbor was no longer needed because of the fill change. So you all bring us up to date on this. So I don't know.
Do you want to address the public meeting, or excuse me, the public hearing?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think, thank you. Okay, at our last meeting, we voted to close the public hearing on this particular issue, and we did so inappropriately and incorrectly. There were obviously still some open questions and some information that we didn't have. We found out later that there was information that some of us had, but wasn't made available to the public prior to or during the meeting, and that was in violation of the open meetings law. So because we inappropriately closed the public hearing remains open, and members of the public will be invited to speak. And if there's any outstanding issues, the public hearing will remain open until we feel we have all the information we need and can make a decision. So does that sum it up?
Great.
Everybody's, that's why I get paid the big bucks. Okay, but thank you for reminding me, because I forgot to write things down because I was doing other things right up to the beginning of this meeting. So I'm not as prepared as I normally am. Okay. So, Brian, you were meeting and speaking. Who's speaking now? Brian, you talked to 888's engineer, and I think that also William or Christie had some discussion with our building inspector as to what permits were open and what approvals were received by 888. Lou is muted, but we're still hearing his sound. Is that something we can fix? Because Lou's not there. Okay. Okay. So Brian, do you want to start? William, can you mute Lou, please? Here he is. Okay. We're having real sound problems tonight. I'm sensing a theme here. Okay, Brian, you're up.
Yes, so at the last meeting, there was questions raised, and I raised a question also as to the change versus the concept plan versus what was previously approved. Why a third.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear. Right. Okay.
Why that third system was no longer proposed.
Can I just state, the people at this meeting, if you're not speaking, if you could please mute yourself so we don't hear ambient noise from your microphone, that would be a help so that we can hear Brian.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, so I raised that question. I spoke to the applicant's engineer. He explained it verbally and in a memo that the reduction in fill, when the previously approved plan had a large fill pad creating a plateau almost of a rear yard, that was changing the flow paths of the stormwater, and so to offset any impacts of that fill, they installed a Coltech system to capture that overland flow. With this new plan, the smaller lot, they don't have the opportunity to fill as much because they'll no longer own that portion of land. So the fill pad is not the same size, and the areas of that third system will remain undisturbed, and that flow path will be unchanged. So it's my understanding that that third system isn't needed now under the current proposal, and that no downstream properties will be impacted by the development because the applicant has shown that they have feasible stormwater areas to treat the proposed roof and driveway on the new lot. So
Okay.
that's
And does this make sense to you? Do you agree with the statements made by the applicants?
I do. Yes, I agree that that third system is no longer needed, and based on the preliminary layout of the concept plan, without, I know the topic of a SWIP has been brought up, but I haven't seen any updated numbers, but based on the location of the proposed stormwater treatment systems and visually looking at the size of the newly proposed house and driveway, it seems that they have plenty of feasible space to treat the on-site stormwater. So
okay,
the final numbers have to be worked out when they apply for a stormwater permit.
Well, if and when somebody builds on that site, but from what I understand from previous memos, when the back of part of the parcel is conveyed to the neighbors and the parcel, then the building parcel becomes smaller, the house that can be built on it also becomes smaller. So any approvals for anything that was done when the subdivision was decided back in the day are basically nullified, or all the paperwork would have to be resubmitted. Is that correct?
Right, when they submit for a building permit, if their coverage They're,
Right.
whatever it is, when I say it's
Everything,
50%,
right.
but they have
So-
less area to work with now, so it's proportionally.
Okay. So we don't have to worry that there's a SWIP hanging out there for a much larger project, and it's, I don't know, Frank, what you do in a case like this. Do you like rescind your approval of it or officially, or you just, there's a note in the file that a new SWIP is needed? How do you handle something like this?
We would probably void that SWIP if it's going to change. If they're going to submit new plans and new
Right.
SWIP, we would void the old.
Okay. So if we approve the change of the lot line and the back part of the lot gets transferred, the ownership gets transferred to the neighbor, then at that point in time, you would void the SWIP approval.
Yes.
Okay. I think that was an open question for us. Also, we understand now that there's an open permit for a retaining wall and some fill to be brought in.
That's
Now,
correct.
was that permit based on the smaller lot or the larger lot, or?
No, it's actually based on the larger lot, and it was the retaining wall on the right-hand side of that property. And he had a permit for that and to bring in fill, which he was
Right.
in the process of doing, and then, the playing field changed a little bit, so
Right.
we stopped them from bringing any more fill in until this was resolved.
Okay. So you're on top of that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, good. Right. All right. Anybody have any questions now that we sort of figured out what's going on?
I have a couple, and excuse my ignorance because I'm not an engineer. What is, and I guess Mr. Hildenbrand, this is for you, was the originally approved amount of fill, and what would be the amount of fill that would be required under the smaller lot development?
I would have to defer to the applicant to give us those numbers. I don't.
Okay, because
were-
I think you mentioned that there was a memo from the applicant talking about there was going to be less fill. I don't remember seeing that. I might have, but I'm just wondering, what are we going from? Are we cutting it in half? So yes, please, if someone can answer that question.
When I say less fill, I mean, just to point out, that's just looking at the plan and maybe just from looking at plans for as a living, when I see the grading on the around the house relatively the same, but now they're losing a good portion of the rear yard, which previously had fill. I just am, maybe it's, I don't know what the word is, I'm assuming, and it's kind of more of an intuitive look at, okay, they're no longer creating this plateau. They're using less fill. I have not seen any hard numbers.
They're
Brian?
creating a smaller, let me just stick with him for a second because I'm going to try to understand this. Okay, I get that. They have a smaller house, they have a smaller property, they need less fill, but okay. But so they haven't really provided you with an exact number, any kind of estimate for the change in fill from the approved plan to what they could do now if it was a full build out lot coverage.
I don't think that was on the concept plan.
Okay. So assuming that, they're going to do some fill, I mean, I think we're talking about a reduction, not an elimination of fill. They have less property to work with. Can you deal, you're not supposed to put Cultex into fill, is my understanding, without certain requirements. So with less property, the fill area is going to be more condensed closer to the house. And if you can't put Cultex into fill, I'm still struggling with whether or not they can handle their stormwater. That's the first part of the question. The second is, are they still required to do water quality? Obviously, they're controlling quantity. Do they have a water quality requirement based on the disturbance under the new plan?
The first, as far as being more condensed, the grades, I believe, are relatively the same. So they're not squishing, the fill pad is not getting taller. It's not being condensed. It's just, so I have no issue, wouldn't say it's more condensed. It's just less of an area being filled.
That's what I mean by condensed. I'm sorry, I'm not using the right words, but they have less land, they own less land to gradually grade. So I just need to, I need professional assurance that whatever they need to deal with, water quality, water quantity, the constraints of putting stormwater management practices into fill can all be satisfied.
Right. I believe based on the test results that they provided, you can fill over a Coltech system. So when we check the bottom elevation of the system, that is in the, in undisturbed virgin soil, you can fill over them. So that's one thing we check. So, make sure they still have their 3 feet of separation from the bottom to groundwater. And then based on the manufacturer, I mean, you could fill up to, I think it's 10 to 12 feet over a chamber before, as long as the bottom is an undisturbed land. And as far as the requirements, they're based on the village code. They only have to mitigate the 25-year storm. They haven't triggered the water quality threshold.
Okay, is that, all right, is that, maybe that can be confirmed by the applicant? Because I thought some of those stormwater management practices were dealing with water quality when the lot was larger. I could be wrong.
Brian, if you would like, if it would be helpful, we do have our engineer here tonight. Again, Kristen Motel from the law firm Cuddy and Fader, representing the property owner of 888 Orienta. Stephen Anderson from Gabriel Senior's office is here. Stephen, can you answer some of those questions for Ms. Goldstein?
Yes, we are taking away at least half of the fill that was going to be there to begin with. And as I just want to go back to the original where the rear yard is being eliminated now. So on the initial stormwater plan, there was a problem with the water going all the way to that rear corner, but now we're more to the natural flows of the subcatchments for that project. But basically all the soil has been tested in the areas of the Coltex. They really did not change in position. And what you're seeing is the original Coltex, which are designed for a much larger impervious area. Now we're reducing driveway area, we're reducing house area, so they're fully capable of handling the stormwater. So that lot is capable of handling what the stormwater system is capable of handling, what it needs by code, what's allowed to be built.
And it's your understanding that there is no requirement under the code for stormwater quality?
Oh, no, they're doing those stormwater quality anyway. That's a requirement. That's why you see 2 systems there. It fills up the first system, and the stormwater, the volume that's required by the state, it's all calculated in the SHWEP. They essentially fill up, and then it goes into the other infiltration system when it overflows. So, and I'm trying to see, I thought we did a higher storm than 25. I'm not sure, I can't recall at the moment, but
you're only required to do 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we were over that, but if you give me a second, I could possibly check on
No,
that.
I'm not worried. As long as you do what you have to do, you can go over and above, that's terrific. But
we made sure about the water quality and everything. So
okay, so under the original plan, the water quality treatment was happening in the back or in the front in terms of the practices?
Both of them. Both systems have water quality.
Okay, so you're losing the ones in the back because you're losing
that group was strictly for overland flow that was caused by that extra fill, which pushed it to that back rear corner. Like the lot is long and narrow, and because of the grading of that rear yard, it was pushing water to the back corner. But now we're taking away that plateau and we're going more towards the initial flow path before that, like it was shifted to the back, but now it's back to its original pre-development design point. So there's no need for those back Coltex.
So you're going to catch the water before it goes back there,
Yeah.
because that piece of property won't belong to
Right.
the same
Yeah.
person.
And that will be the responsibility. If they do any development there, they would have to do some design.
Okay. Then I have a question about the August 6th, 2020 memo from your office. It wasn't you who signed it, but I'm hoping you can help me with it.
Yeah.
The first sentence of the second paragraph, we understand that the property owner plans to grade the property per the grading permit with, and then it goes on to describe the fill.
Mm-hmm.
I think what our chair was driving at was there are a bunch of permits outstanding. How could you use the old grading permit? Wouldn't that have to be rescinded along with the old SWIP? You can't, we're talking about different quantities of fill, we're talking about different grades. I just don't understand, and maybe this is an error, what that sentence means in the context of a new lot line.
Ms. Goldstein, in the context of a new lot line, meaning the subdivision is approved, those permits need to be amended. So we're fully aware of that.
Okay, so this is sort of a mistake in terms of it can't be per the existing grading permit.
Right. Right. So we understand. I mean, this letter did come from our engineering office. It didn't come from my office. So yes, they were trying to say it would be under a permit. The existing permits will be amended.
Okay, but you can see how it was kind of like.
Yes, I understand.
I think, Mr. Anderson, this was really helpful. All this information you just provided us, if that could be condensed into one memo, I would feel a lot happier with all this information, because I'm sort of dragging pieces here and there, and I'm not happy with assumptions and logic. I need engineering. So if you could describe what the Coltex in the back did, it was stormwater, which will no longer be.
I think the Kellard letter pretty much states that. And I think we've approached that. I don't think that the system in the back is a moot point at this point, because it's not going to be there. That area is not being developed. It was only doing the overland flow of a good section of half the lot that is going now to be back to its existing grade. So
Okay, I don't see that language in anybody's memos, but I don't care who writes the memo. I just would like to see it in one place. I'm hoping it wouldn't be too difficult to pull that together, because I'm pulling pieces from everything to get to what you succinctly just told us.
The language on page 2 of Brian's September 22nd memo addresses the flow. So I'm just trying to get an understanding of what language you want summarized in a new memo. That's different than what Brian says.
It's not so much different from what Brian says. It's an elaboration of what's in that memo. I mean, there's some sentences in here that don't make a lot of sense to me. Because it talks about the infiltration system of the 9 Coltex in the rear yard, but now it's not happening, but it doesn't explain why it's not happening. I just sort of need those threads tied off for me. It's not happening because it's not necessary. There will be approximately 50% less fill, and there will be less impervious surface because it's a smaller lot. So those Coltex are not needed. We're still treating water quality. The 2 systems will handle that according to New York State Stormwater Design Manual. I mean, it's maybe 10 sentences, but all in one place.
Yeah, I would ask you not to delay this Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say we have two memos from the engineers, August 6th and September 11th. We have more than two memos, I think, from Brian, two that came within days of one another. And it would be nice to have everything all at one place. And Mr. Wexian, I understand that you're anxious to get this done. Your clients are not proposing to build anything on it. It's a transfer of property. Is there any way we can satisfy this just so that we're not going back and forth between documents to summarize everything, and we can refer to a document and have a clean resolution that everyone can understand? Because right now, the resolution, unfortunately, we made a few changes to it during the day today, and I didn't even get a chance to look at it
I mean,
prior to the meeting.
ideally, I would love it if the applicant's engineer, I think we're talking a few short paragraphs, prepared something, and then our engineer reviewed it, so we would have all parties on the same page with what's going to happen and what's being handled. And you know, Brian would sign off on it and we'll be done.
May I be heard on this? There were two issues raised at the last meeting about drainage. One was whether cul-de-sacs were needed there. And two is whether the conceptual plan for the lot that's being retained would be able to control and manage the stormwater from the maximum coverage buildup. Both of those are addressed clearly in the Elliott C. Noor memo. Tonight's testimony from Mr. Anderson says exactly what you wanted to know. And in fact, Ms. Goldstein summarized it beautifully. There's nothing that makes oral testimony inherently less probative or less valuable than a letter. You have 4 memos, you have oral testimony on the issue. All of these issues have been addressed. And I would hope that bureaucratic inertia doesn't delay this a full month. There really is no reason for it.
Bureaucratic inertia. I think there's been a lot of work done on this, but thank you. Okay. All right.
I don't see why it would be a month. Why wouldn't it just be till our next meeting?
Which is 3 weeks from tonight.
Okay, almost a month.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean, I think we've hashed out the issues. I mean, I
The
just.
people who need to understand the issues, are we comfortable with our level of understanding? And I don't just mean the members of the planning board. We also have staff that needs to work on documents. We have Frank who needs to follow up on things because this has gotten complicated. And is everybody okay with moving forward? I'm not sure we're prepared to pass the draft resolution we have in front of us now. Based on what we heard today, I think we need to change some language in the draft resolution. So I think we're looking at 3 weeks from now to anyway. I mean, anybody disagree with that statement? I mean, we have version, we have 2 different resolutions that Ms. Mason sent to us late this afternoon. I don't even know if everybody saw them, but that was a factor of we weren't sure what we were doing with regards to all the changes that came here. And I apologize for the confusion with regards to whether the public hearing was open or closed, and that was part of the problem today that we had to resolve before we could move on with this. And if you want to call that bureaucratic inertia, I'd probably call it bureaucratic mess. We certainly weren't inert. I spent a lot of time on this today. So, and I apologize. We made an error 2 weeks ago that we all should have caught, but we didn't. How do members of the board feel? I don't feel prepared. I mean, I think we heard enough tonight that we could write a resolution without a memo.
Can I just remind everybody that I will be preparing a new stormwater plan and SWEP for this project. I mean, everything will be reviewed according to all the manuals, the state, the the town, and, you know, we'll follow everything,
Right.
right through it all again.
Right. It won't come back to the planning board. It will be with the building department when something is proposed for this piece of land. So Frank is here with us, following the saga along with us. So he'll be like the guy in the circus who follows the elephants, right? He'll have to make sure everything's clean when you actually go to build something.
And our code actually requires us to look into this. We wouldn't be doing this. We know that it will go through the review process with the building inspector, and a new SWIP will be prepared according to law. But we have to meet certain statutory requirements in our code. So that's why we're doing this. And because most of us, or some of us, are lay people, it's tougher to figure it all out.
Okay, and I understand it's not even related to 886. It's related to next door. But this is unfortunately 888. If you divide it, these are the repercussions of dividing the lot and selling off the back half of the lot. So,
I wasn't suggesting they should be segregated. I also wasn't suggesting the board's not working hard. It's just frustrating because we feel all the evidence is here. Some of it's oral, some of it's written. I just have a couple questions before we close for the night.
Okay.
Can I also make a couple suggestions, Chair? I don't know if you want Adam to speak first, or Mr. Wexstein, or myself, but.
Well, you started first, so why don't we, right, go ahead. Christy. Or Christy. Yeah, Christy, right.
I was like, Christy Adana?
Yeah, I know. No, we have a Kristen and two Christies, right?
So I understand there are some concerns about the resolution because it was received late this afternoon. But I took a look at it quickly. And again, this is your choice, the board's choice, not mine. But if you are comfortable with running through those changes and then also adding a condition on that they need to submit this updated memo, we could end the application review tonight, have the resolution finalized, and have that as a condition so that they don't have to come back in September. But if you're not comfortable with that, if you really do want to take the time, it's obviously the board's decision. I just want to throw it out there as an option that we could put it as a condition.
Okay, gives us an option here. I'm not sure that the resolution as written adequately describes what we heard tonight.
Okay.
And summarize it succinctly.
Okay.
And, you know, whether we get a memo that does that and we can lift off the memo, or we watch the tape of this meeting and just, I was taking notes, but I wasn't taking notes as if we were going to wordsmith from what we heard. And minutes, we're still working on minutes from June. So if we're not going to have minutes from this meeting, we have to watch the tape.
That's fine. I always have to watch the tape. So, best way to memorialize what happened.
Right. So you know, that's kind of how I'm reading, but I want to hear from other members of the board. But before that, let's, Mr. Wexstein, if you'd like to continue, you started speaking to us.
I just had a couple of questions. I guess question number one is I didn't understand the procedural issue as to the hearing. Is it because you received the additional information, or was something else done wrong? And are you planning to close the hearing tonight or at your next meeting, assuming you're not ready to act tonight?
There were two things. One, we did receive additional information, and if the hearing were closed, we wouldn't be able to put it into the record without opening another hearing, and then we'd have to notice another hearing, so we wouldn't have been meeting tonight. And 2 weeks ago, the record that we had, the memo, especially the memo from your engineer that was dated August 6th, not every member of the planning board had that memo, and it hadn't been posted on the village's website under the agenda for the public to view. So because that record then wasn't complete and available to the public and available to every member, it was an error on our part that we shouldn't have closed. the public hearing. And so that action we took was not a proper action and therefore was voided.
Understood.
So the public hearing. And, you know, we have a change in staff. We lost the administrative person in the planning department who did all this. So what can I say? She's in Florida. She moved to Florida. So everybody knows Betty Ann moved to Florida. So, you know, we're adjusting, and the new village planner is recruiting new staff, and we'll fill the gaps. But these things happen, and I apologize. I don't know what to tell you.
No, don't apologize.
But I think that we're on better footing now, and I think that without all of this running around trying to figure out how to handle certain things that were internal to us, we'll can do a better job at having a resolution that makes sense. I know you requested a change in language to the resolution. If you want to explain that to us now, that will solve us from doing it again.
Sure, that was one of my two issues. I only have one other one. The resolution as written, it stated, either implied or stated, that we were going to need to get approval from the Westchester County Health Department. And what we're likely to get is a no jurisdiction letter, since we're not putting in septic or well, sorry, I do a lot of counties, septic or connected water supplies.
We have septic systems in Mamaroneck.
Really? Wow.
Absolutely. And there's more than you think. Down by the water. Yeah.
Anyway, this was my long-winded way of saying, I just wanted the condition rewritten to say it could be approval by the health department or a waiver of jurisdiction. And I think the language did that.
Okay, I don't think that's a problem.
I asked to drop out the Westchester Joint Waterworks. I don't know that they're needed. If they are needed, the health department's not going to sign off on it. If you wanted to leave them in, I would just ask that it says Westchester County Joint Waterworks to the extent it's required.
All right, it's not a county. It's not a county. It's a tri-municipal public benefit corporation that provides the water system for the village of Mamaroneck. So the Westchester Joint Waterworks is the proper name for it. Okay.
So both of those would be in the
Okay. All right. We're following up to see if the waterworks needs to be included in there.
Well, even if you just said if necessary, that would accomplish the objective.
Okay.
Before it's comfortable.
All right. Christy's nodding. Okay. Right. Okay.
May I just add that whatever engineering memos we get, assuming it would be from the applicant's engineer and from Mr. Hildenbrand, concurring or commenting, that everything be signed and sealed, of the usual engineering formalities.
Okay. Do you guys know what that means? Okay.
No question. I just want to make sure there's nothing else that's out there on the stormwater that you're comfortable with.
Well, there's nothing,
Mr.
I think that we're good, but this is a public hearing and it's still open, and we now need to see if there are any members of the public who would like to address the board with regards to this application.
Does anyone from the public
raise your
hand? Madam Chair, I don't see anyone seeking to speak.
All right, let's give them another minute or two. And if you're calling in, you hit, what is it again? *9? Was that, who said that? Somebody said that. They knew something about Zoom that I didn't know.
One of the
Donna. my counterpart, I guess.
Oh, okay. The other
Other
Christy.
name. Yeah, the other half. Whatever you want to say.
Nobody's raising their hand. Everybody's good. We settled all the questions that got raised prior to this meeting by the public. Okay. All right. We have a question. We have somebody in chat. Oh, okay. We're good. Okay. All right. So I think we're okay. And I think we have a plan, and hopefully it'll be smooth sailing from this point forward. And am I apologizing?
Are you adjourning the public hearing to the October meeting? Is that?
Yes, we're going to keep the public hearing open just in case members of the public weren't aware that it was still open, and they are watching and are thinking about it or whatever, we'll make sure we keep it open.
Well, we have to
Plus,
accept.
we also have to get your memo in, and that
Yeah.
way, there's no question about it being part of the public record.
I
I'm
understand.
learning also as I go along.
No, that's right.
Right.
But
Okay.
I want to thank you again for your patience. If I offended anybody, I apologize. I also want to thank Mr. Mendez for mentioning it. I can tell he made me feel young, actually, that someone else can mention that. Thank
I
you.
think we're, all right, so we're good. Okay, so with that note, does any member of the planning board have anything else for tonight? We're good. So I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
To adjourn.
Richard, would you like to second?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just really quick before the record, I just want to state that all board members were present for tonight's meeting. That's all.
Okay. All right. Okay. And John was recused on this matter and not excused, recused. Okay. All right. All in favor of adjourning the meeting? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your work on these 3 applications tonight. They all had a little twist to them. They all had a little bit of work to be done. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.